I will now like to invite the Chief Executive Officer, New Zealand Thoroughbred Racing, Bruce Sharrock, came into his role in 2022 April after a stint as both New Zealand Thoroughbred COO and board member. Bruce's ties to Thoroughbred Racing runs deep as an owner and breeder himself, and brother to prominent New Zealand trainer Alan Sharrock, and son of the late Bob Sharrock, who trained for many years. Bruce brings to his role strong leadership skills, industry expertise, and a track record of results that will help drive New Zealand Thoroughbred Racing forward. Stage is yours, Bruce.
Thank you, V. Thank you very much for the introduction and the kind words. Firstly, what a pleasure to be here today, and to the JRA for the amazing job that they've done in putting this together. Like everything in Japan, it's running like clockwork. So credit to everybody who's made it a reality. Look, unlike a few of the other jurisdictions that we've heard from, New Zealand has a very proud history and a very long history in racing. It has a breeding background that is world renowned. At some of its people, you'll see there James McDonald, arguably one of the better jockeys in the world. However, it's been ailing for some years for a myriad of reasons. There have been many reports that were done, the most recent one by John Massara back in 2018. What that led to was a new Racing Act in 2020. And what it provided for was many things, but one of them, and you've heard from Lachlan Fitt this morning from Entain, and what it allowed for was the outsourcing or the partnering of our wagering operation. In 2023 May, the then Minister McAnulty agreed to outsource, and in June 2023, Entain, who won the bid to be our strategic partner for the next 25 years, started work, and started work they did. It provided for us an opportunity for reform, a much needed reform for an industry that really, I'm not sure that's moved. There we go. There we go. An industry that was due for reform, and by the introduction of a world-leading operator, and you heard from Lachlan today, I'm not going to repeat the credibility that they have and what they bring to the table, but clearly they're a leading global wagering operator. They're of scale, they have the resource. What is very, very obvious in the first 12 months of working with them is a passion for racing, an absolute passion for racing. And it's been a pleasure collaborating over the last 12 months. The technology and marketing, you've already seen, there's a second brand being introduced a handful of weeks ago into New Zealand, which gives our wagering audience in New Zealand options. But one of the key things that allowed us to start to put in place a plan for sustainability was part of the model, and part of the agreement was a funding model that allowed for 5 years of minimum guarantee funding for us as an operation. What that's allowed us to do is start to plan, and plan with certainty. The old model didn't allow that. The old model really had us guessing year to year what we could invest in and what we couldn't. And the demands on prize money were such that it was really trying to meet that more than anything else and investing in the business. It became time for change from June 1. The overarching view here was we had to grow wagering and build a sustainable future. So at the core of everything we were looking at was how do we continue to grow the wagering side of our business, which had been ailing somewhat for some years. The first step, and Lockie alluded to it this morning, was we had to grow the confidence of the industry. That too had been ailing for a number of years. Prize money had been down, returns to owners had been poor, and we had to do something. And we felt strategically the first thing we needed to do was give confidence back to our industry, for those that were currently in it, for those that were thinking about coming into it, and anyone else that felt it was an industry worth getting involved in. So the first step was to improve prize money, and you saw that with our chairman's opening on day one. And we grew prize money by 30% in the year 23-24. It did have a very, very strong impact straight away. It provided confidence to our breeding sector. It provided confidence to our owners, trainers, and jockeys. And we're pleased to see over the first 12 months some green shoots appearing by way of wagering turnover, which has been the strongest in the last 14 years. We've seen our starter numbers sitting at around 10.6 per race. Our average race numbers 10.6. And our starter numbers have grown also to a tick over 26,000 this year, which is a slight increase from previous years. Product presentation was another thing we had to focus on. You've seen what Entain has done. They've brought a new lens to the way in which people consume the product in New Zealand. They've brought a new lens and option to people to wager with a second brand. So they're playing their part. My demand of our people in New Zealand was to effectively say we have a part to play here. We had to improve the presentation both personally, the facilities in which we run on, the tracks, and everything that was viewable by broadcast. And even down to the small things that matter, which is running races on time. It's important. So starting to really have a culture shift within the country was vital. We had to optimise our calendar. It's probably the biggest asset we have, and we had to do everything we could to grow wagering and to renew confidence with our audience. We worked collaboratively with Entain, who provided the data, innovation and ideas to pull together what, particularly in the calendar that we're into now, which is period 24-25, a revamped summer calendar. Summer is the period for New Zealand to raise its flag and to be the shining light, particularly in Australasia. But with some of the discussions held over the last few days, I believe joining the globe and playing its role. The creation of hero events. Fans today want more than the core product. They demand more than the core product. And when they come to pinnacle events, they're looking for entertainment. We created a thing called the Grand Tour. We're in year 3 of it now. And what that's all about is creating an environment and an atmosphere for first-time racegoers to come and have a good time, and all the ancillary stuff that goes with it. Music, fun, and an environment is a must. And we're seeing good growth in that. We've refined it in season 24-25 down to 12 events from what was 20. What we've also done is created a new hero event called Champions Day, and for us it's huge. What we'll see run that day will be 4 Group 1s, the rest of the races will be group and listed races, but ultimately it will be the introduction of our first slot race, the Southern Hemisphere's richest 3-year-old race, which will be worth $4.5 million. It's something that there's still a slot available, so if anyone's got a Kiwi-bred 3-year-old, come and see me. We're in business. And just to give you a sneak peek, here's what it can look like.
Starting to release here. The 2 favourites sit down to find it out. Race to the lead, put him away in a few strides. Oh, gee, that's close.
As you can see, March 8th, 2025 will be the inaugural Champions Day and the running of the NZB Kiwi, which is New Zealand Bloodstock, who is sponsoring it, and it's a fantastic alignment with them as well. Into what we call a virtuous circle of sustainable growth. I won't read it all to you, but effectively it's a cycle of 3 parts. The first is us, the industry. Everything from governance, being active, being innovative, but equally getting right down to the grassroots of all our licence holders and allowing them to understand the key role that they play if we're going to have and achieve sustainable growth. Everybody needs to rise the tide here. Everybody needs to contribute. We play our role. We look at number 2, which is the growth in wagering. We have the opportunity with Entain to come along and transform the wagering business in New Zealand and the marketing of the product to people in New Zealand. And as we've already seen in 12 short months, they mean business and they're doing what they said they would do, and they're certainly pushing us to make sure we do what we do. All of this is simply going to lead to increased distributions to the codes, which clearly an allocation will go to prize money. But I do have to say that for us too, we have to start to shore up the infrastructure that supports the industry. There's no point racing for money if you don't have race courses to race on. There's no point racing for money if you don't have people who want to be part of your industry. or horses that are cared for to the level that they must be. So all of these things have got to be catered for via the increased distributions. Finally, there's a lot to do. We've only just started. Our improvement with our infrastructure, tracks and facilities is ongoing. We're 100 years plus, 170 years plus. There's been a lot of underinvestment for many, many years, and we need to get serious about it. We need to optimise our assets. New Zealand is a country rich with assets by way of venues, and there are significant holdings there that our industry, we must revisit and have a look at whether it's optimised for the industry and the greater good, not for the parochial view of one or two. Improvement of welfare standards, horse and human. Again, it's been well traversed during the last few days. This is something that will not go away. This is something that we as an industry have to embrace and continue to get better and better and better at. Our industry perception in New Zealand. When I was growing up, New Zealand was a nation of rugby, racing and beer. We're playing rugby, well, moderately okay. We'll probably get a hiding from our South African mates on Saturday night. We're still drinking lots of beer, but racing's fallen out of that conversation. Our challenge is to bring the perception back and get back into that conversation in mainstream sport in New Zealand. Our licence holders, standards, they need to improve. It's a privilege to get a licence, not a right. We're now racing for over $105 million into season 24-25. If you want a slice of it, it comes with a standard. Club efficiency and performance. Our clubs have to be better at executing events and giving an experience to fans, participants that they deserve. They need to start collaborating as well because there is duplication right across our network and the efficiencies have to come into play and is a major focus for us in the next 12 months. And finally, mindsets. It's probably the biggest inhibitor, in my view, to getting to where we have to go to. If you think it, it will happen. However, if you're bold enough to think about what could be, then it is the real momentum that I think we all need. If we want different, we've got to have the courage to think different. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question for you, Bruce. You touched on it on your slide about your assets and improve on your assets. South Africa, we are experts in that. So I've come in the past 2 decades ago. There's a term called rationalize. Do you believe in that? Are you looking at that? Because you've got so much of assets. Are you sweating your assets correctly?
No, we're not at the moment. And look, the reality is that what we've seen over the last probably 5 or 6 years is a stabilisation of our foal crop. And it's indicating to us where we're probably going to sit and the size of network that we could operate from. What that means is a surplus number of venues. If you go back 100 years, New Zealand had 54 racecourses. The review most recently done by John Massara indicated 28. We're probably sitting about 34 now. So there's some serious conversations going on with some real estate that is worth millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. What that clearly will do is diversify revenue and de-risk, I guess, from the volatility that our wagering, because as we all know, our industries are underpinned by wagering. So it's going to de-risk that. It's underway. We've set up what we call an industry fund and currently in the throes of a lot of various conversations with a lot of clubs around doing what's right for our industry and securing it into the future.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. I understand the sensitivity as well. Just finally, Bruce, a note in your bio that you have a solid background in sports management, taking care of elite sport athletes. So how do you transfer those skills from that role into your current role, taking care of the sports athletes into your current role?
You've done your homework, V. Look, I think a lot of them are transferable. First and foremost, what is lacking in New Zealand is the profile and the professionalism within our industry. The irony is not lost on me that our horses are trained as professional athletes. They're cared for as professional athletes. And yet the perception of the people that work in our industry needs to rise. Our jockeys particularly, we're in the throes now of creating an elite jockeys program, and I know there's some very good examples around the globe, and we've looked at best practice. We have to do a version of that for ourselves. But most of all, simply getting back into the conversation of professional sport, the way we conduct ourselves, the way that we educate the people about what we do is paramount, and there are many steps in place to address that.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Well done.
Thanks.
See you now.